So in addition to the new zones, we've got the class art and items. We learned an awful lot in the course of doing Crusade King. I would say it every day. So I think it's going to be a lot more fun to go through the old world with a new character. So we'll get to ditch some of those things like agility spirit boots that we had as quest rewards. Or at least if we don't, there will be hell to pay.
Right.
We've got a guild advancement system, so this is completely new. We have the ability for players to actually level up the guilds that they're in, to gain access to a whole bunch of new perks. We'll go over this feature in more depth in the game systems panel. It may also be labeled as the PvP panel, although on the brochures it's not entirely true. It's actually the game systems panel and covers more new features than just PvP. So with the guild advancement system, everything that players do is going to be able to contribute to the advancement of their guild. We currently plan to have 20 guild levels, so you'll be able to have anywhere between guild level 1 to level 20. And you'll be able to advance it by doing all the things that you guys normally like to do, like doing daily quests, doing raids, doing battlegrounds, that kind of stuff. All that stuff will contribute to the advancement of the guild, and what you get for it are access to a lot of awesome new perks. So we're actually going to have a guild talent tree, and the guilds will be able to choose what guild talents they want to have, and those will give you access to things like, cheaper repairs, or maybe less durability loss when you wipe an array. Also give you some nifty new things like mass resurrection, ability to resurrect your guild after it wipes horribly. We also have new race class combos. So it's kind of a nice little reason for people to, as they re-roll, to be able to go through the content once again. A lot of really cool new combos that we have that were never before playable. Add a nice breath of fresh air. So let me just be the first one here to say, holy cow. So bad. I'm sorry. The gnomes, finally self-sufficient. Able to play exclusively with their own kind if they so wish. Now we all get to kill the gnome healer first. The dwarf shaman. Pound those hammers, create some earthquakes, good times. So to do a lot of new things with our quests that we couldn't do before, made things a lot more interesting and learning experience. I don't know if maybe one or two of you out there played through that. Well done, Alex. Well done. So we're trying to take that up a notch. We're going to have the ability to face terrain, so the world will actually be able to change as you play through quest lines. That'll help us make the world a little bit more dynamic than ever was before, help make the quests and the stories more compelling, more fun, more interesting, more different. Here's a quick little example of facing terrain. Note the coastline before and after, and even more after. So that's just one example of what we can do with the phasing terrain. We can do all kinds of really cool stuff with it and expect some world-changing kind of stuff. On to archaeology. And again, we'll cover this in more detail in the classes, items, and professions panel, but to give you a quick idea for what it is, we've got an awful lot of ruins and things like that in the world of Azeroth, and players are finally going to be able to explore some of those ruins and get access to archaeology nodes that are there. and use them to make discoveries, use those discoveries to kind of research. Well, they'll do some research in order to make the discoveries, and those will lead directly into the new Paths of the Titans. So players are going to be able to get these artifacts and take them to these different world groups that we'll talk about more later that have to do with the different Paths of the Titans, and they'll help players advance along the Titan progression. So the Paths of the Titans are a new way for players to kind of customize their characters. The idea here is that while we're doing a whole lot of new talents in the expansion, we aren't actually extending the trees any farther than they are right now. So the 51-point talents that we have now will continue to be the 51-point talents in the expansion. You will get 5 new talent points to spend along the way as you get it to level 85. But rather than deepening the talent trees further, we're going to give you a little bit of a chance to get more points in the talents that we already have right now to make sure you're not stretched too thin. And then introduce the Paths of the Titans, which is a completely new type of advancement. Every player is going to be able to choose which path they want to follow, and they're not limited by class. So one of the interesting things about this system is that a rogue, for example, would be able to choose any one of the paths. So, you know, some rogues might choose one path, others might choose another one. There also might be priests that are choosing the same path. So there are a bunch of new abilities and kind of passive bonuses, that sort of stuff, in each one of those paths that you'll be able to choose between. So it adds kind of another dimension to your character customization. And in addition, we have the mastery system. The mastery system, more than anything else, is a way for us to prune some of the complexity out of the talent trees that we feel, you know, doesn't really need to be there. There are a lot of talents out there that have way too much stuff put in them. They were talents that we made because we thought they'd be cool and fun, but because they didn't increase your character power very directly in a tangible way, like increased damage or increased healing, the talents tended to not work out. So we ended up over time having to put a lot of damage or healing or whatever, a lot of character power into those talents. So it allows us to kind of take some of that character power out of those talents, so you have more kind of fun, interesting choices between the talents, and turn them into a passive bonus for spending your talent points in that tree. Again, Greg will talk about this in more detail later, but essentially what it means is that as you spend points in a talent tree, your character will become more powerful in certain ways that you're used to right now, like increased crit chance or increased damage or those sorts of things, increased poison damage, that sort of thing. In addition, we have an awful lot of new content. So, of course, to go with all these zones, we have a lot of new dungeons, we've got new raids, new creatures, quests, items, the whole shebang. So all that stuff that everybody's used to. And with that, I'm going to actually turn it over to Corey to talk about that in a little bit more detail.
Hey guys. So I'm going to get into some details about the new zones and a little bit more details also about how exactly we're changing some of the classic zones. So as you saw earlier in what we've been talking about, the Cataclysm affects everything on Azeroth. We plan to actually hit every single zone in the game. Now, that doesn't mean that every zone's going to get the same level of change. It's going to be a little as Tom talked about, we've got 5 new zones that basically level up. And as well, we have the 2 new starting zones. We're doing something a little different this time, though, and both those zones are going to be 1 to 15. Now, this is a big hit I think everyone's really going to like. You're going to be able to fly everywhere in Azeroth now. We're planning no restrictions, no not flying over Wintergrasp anymore, none of that. You're going to be able to go wherever you want. Yeah. So as I was mentioning before, we have different scales of change. And so, like you saw in the video, some zones are really affected by the Cataclysm just based on where they are in their locale. Some zones will have a smaller effect. For example, something like Elwyn won't be changing a whole lot. There'll be different quests, there'll be new quest flows and, you know, different things. But then you look at a zone like Barrens, it's been completely sundered in half and split into Northern Barrens and Southern Barrens. So it's been really affected. One thing that this does, we're actually going to change the level flow for the entire leveling experience from 1 to 60. So a zone that you might know now as a level 20 zone might end